Hi everyone, good afternoon from Sydney and good morning in Singapore. My name is Elaine and thank you for joining me today. I'm very happy that IDP has actually organized this session for us online. We're going to share with you a bit more about, entry requirements, scholarship opportunities to come and study with us here in Sydney itself. Okay. So a bit more about myself. I am based in Sydney. I am also a Singaporean, still holding a Singapore passport. And basically, I do manage the Singapore market for over 12 years already. So I can understand the needs and wants from parents as well as from students who would like to study abroad. Okay, so let's kickstart. I've also shared my screen and prepared a bit of an agenda for everyone here today. We're going to actually explain more about why international students like you and me choose to actually study here in Sydney. I'll share with you a bit more about the undergraduate experience as well, the difference about studying with us versus other institutions across the world, scholarship opportunities, the timeline to apply, for example, as well as entry requirements through either our pathway options or direct admissions into our degrees. And feel free to unmute or put your questions in the chat so that we can actually get back to you on relevant, options and solutions for you all together. Okay. So here's a beautiful overview, or should I say a bird's eye view of Sydney Harbour. And as you can see here, that's the famous Opera House, as well as the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And Sydney City is very vibrant, very multicultural. This is a very nice autumn day here in Sydney. Because it's very diverse, the city of Sydney is one of the largest cities as well here in Australia. There's lots of opportunities for part-time work, for example, outdoor activities, eating, dining, and just, getting in touch with nature altogether. So the University of Sydney does have multiple campuses across New South Wales, but the main campus where you and I will most likely, meet each other and be at would be at Camperdown, Darlington, and that's just about 5 minutes from the CBD itself. Okay. All right, moving on to the next slide. A bit more about the University of Sydney. So now you know that Sydney is very diverse, very multicultural. In fact, the university itself is also very diverse and multicultural. We started, I guess what I can say is it is one of Australia's first university ever established, and that was way back in 1850s, based on the Oxford and Cambridge models. So if you actually have a good look at our logo, you can see the Oxford book at the top and the Cambridge lion below. In terms of, who we are and what's the objective of the university, we would like every single student, regardless of nationality, gender, or faith or religion, be able to come and study with us. So just remember, entry is based on academic merit only for most of our programs. We do not need any reference letters or recommendation letters if you would like to study our bachelor's degree. Okay. And in terms of who you will meet and join, and make friends with, I would say we have over 70,000 students, domestic and international, living and studying together. And more than 30,000 are international students like you and me. But most importantly, our alumni is growing rapidly every year. So we have a lot of graduates and we would like to connect you with them eventually because they will be, acting as your stepping stone towards finding your first job after graduation. And we have a couple of famous alumni as well who have graduated from the University of Sydney, namely our prime ministers, we have Rhodes Scholars, Olympians, etc. And we're one of the few universities way back then, just 30 years after we established in 1850, to allow women to study with us. So that's pretty open-minded for universities back in those days. A bit about why parents or even students, once they have discovered the benefits about studying in Sydney City, they know a bit more about the university. And you can see that the University of Sydney itself is actually a world leader in terms of, being well-rounded for quality teaching, for employability rate as well, in terms of well-ranked disciplines, as well as connection with the industry and the global community as well. So you can see here that there are many different ranking providers out there, but consistently we are pretty much at the top in Australia and ranked 25 in the world. So what we are very proud of is that we have one of the largest in terms of diversity for international students studying at our university. In terms of comparing, studying abroad, like in the US versus studying in Australia or studying in Sydney, you will see that there's good value in terms of being ranked 25th out there. And in comparison, our tuition fees are also a fraction of the price of what you would need to pay to study, say, in America. So these are the top universities in America, the Ivy League universities versus us. And you can see that for that amount of ranking where we are at right now, our tuition fees are much, much lower than studying in the US. In fact, the cost of living as well. So this is really good value considering that if you would like a good ranking university at a fraction of the price, the University of Sydney can offer you that. In terms of what you can study with us, we have an online version of our international guide that you can download. I've also indicated a couple of QRs here along the slides. Feel free to scan them, screen capture. The session is also recorded, so you could always play back after this to get more information from here. But I would say our website will be the holy grail in terms of getting all the useful information that's updated daily. And you can see here that we have over 450 different study areas. Hopefully, there's something that we can offer you to consider to study with us. In terms of ranking by subject, so earlier we talked about the ranking of the university, but now we also would like to share with you by subject ranking itself. This is the 2025 guide here, and you can see that in terms of the different subjects or skills area, from arts to sciences to medicine, engineering, business, as well as law and architecture, we have a lot of the subjects ranked top 15 in the world. I believe the 2026 rankings are also recently out, and they're actually compiling it right now. But the different subject areas that we mark with an asterisk, that's a little star here, shows that we are number one in that subject area itself. Okay. In terms of ranked disciplines, again, like I mentioned earlier, there are many different sources out there because they actually rank universities according to different criteria. But I would say that we're really proud of being consistent within Australia to be top in all these disciplines, from veterinary science to, for example, surgery, oncology, nursing, etc. The next few slides I will share with you would also indicate the subject rankings according to faculties like business, law, arts, humanities, even education as well. Medicine and health is always core for us, and we have very good reputation in these areas, even from Singapore being accredited locally back in Singapore as well. Sciences and technology, definitely up there in terms of ranking, in terms of sports sciences as well. And not forgetting engineering as well as architecture. Okay. So the good thing about the University of Sydney is that you can actually customize your bachelor's degree. And here's how it works. So for example, we have a wide range of subject areas or study areas that you can choose from. Not only that, we also offer you internships, practicum, placements, etc., while you're studying with us. And the fact that you can also continue to pursue either an honors year or master's degree allows you to actually build your progression from there. But I think the most important slide I would like to share with you, to me, would be the share pool. So the share pool actually offers each and every one of you who are considering to study a bachelor's degree with us the flexibility of doing two majors. And these two majors do not necessarily need to be from the same faculty. It can actually come from different faculties altogether. So as you can see on the right side, where I have listed a couple of degrees here, these are the popular degrees that a lot of students choose from, okay, to study with us. And from these set of degrees, you can actually do two majors from any faculty listed here from the University of Sydney. So whether you're thinking about design, arts and social sciences, business, economics, medicine, health, engineering, computer science, education, music, and general sciences, or physical sciences for that matter, you can actually do any possible combination of two subject majors from here. So this gives you a lot of breadth and depth of designing your degree. So students who would benefit from this include students who have different interests. So say, for example, I want to study something in arts. I also want to study something in science. Or, for example, students want to actually pursue technology, IT, but maybe your parents would like to do business for that matter. And also the third type of student would benefit from the share pool would be if I did miss off, by a few points in terms of cutoff for direct entry, I can still study that same major, for example, something in business with the share pool. So I'll explain to you here how it works. And you can see here that you can choose a degree first. So say someone would like to study commerce or business, and we call it the Bachelor's of Commerce. So Bachelor's of Commerce have many different subject areas or majors offered by the business school. So a student who wants to say study marketing, but also may have a totally a different interest in computer science. So computer science actually comes from the Faculty of Engineering. This student, because of the share pool, is able to combine these two majors together in a single degree. So you actually only pay for one degree, not two degrees, but you still graduate in the same duration. So for example, commerce is 3 years. You are able to do two majors under commerce, which is marketing and computer science, and graduate within 3 years. So it's literally the same price, same duration, but it has the value of having two majors listed or certified in your graduation testament itself. So this is really good value, and you are able to do any form of combination that you like. The first major will always be from your degree or faculty itself, and the second major could be either from the same faculty or anything under the University of Sydney listed programs together. Okay, so that's one thing I would really like to highlight today. It's about the flexibility of you customizing your degree itself. And in terms of support, I understand that many of you may or may not have visited Australia or Sydney before, may or may not have family or friends yet when you arrive here in Sydney. So this is very important because we do offer a lot of support for students from day one. So this day one not only means when you first arrive, but when you first actually apply to study with us. And with IDP Singapore, they have a bunch of counselors who get in touch with me daily, so they will be able to guide you in terms of choosing the correct course, for example, whether finding out whether you're eligible to apply, and you get that support when you first inquire with us. Next, you'll also be able to get further support when you arrive here in Sydney. We have peer mentors, we have what we call PASS, which is peer assisted study sessions. So think of it like, free tuition or, core subjects that, you would like to get more assistance with. We have a lot of seniors who did really well in their first and second years. They can be your tutors for free to actually guide you in terms of how to actually study better for your program, especially for first years. For example, the business school also offers maths in business workshops, and this is actually a free workshop for those who are weaker in mathematics. They will be able to guide you from there. Not forgetting support also comes from the clubs and societies that we offer, our career centers, as well as our alumni network. So some students also do ask about internships or placements. A lot of our programs or degrees offer do embed internships and placements as part of your study journey with us. So whether you're thinking about doing architecture, engineering, business, law, medicine, or even arts and social sciences, we do have a lot of placements or internship opportunities waiting for you to actually apply to. And we understand that, if you're not familiar with the local culture or companies, that's where our career center is there, dedicated to help each and every one of you find that right placement altogether. So some students would like to also do their placements not only in Sydney, but overseas. And we do encourage that. what we call work integrated learning. So these placements, if you're thinking about doing the placement, overseas, we usually offer it during study breaks. So during summer or winter breaks, for example, some of you would like to self-source your own placements, and that is doable as well. We will be able to support you from there. And some students like doing medicine or veterinary medicine, they would like to do more remote placements. That's where really a lot of people in the community do need that kind of support, and that's where we can also assist you and guide you in terms of finding remote placements altogether. Now, a bit more about the difference of studying in our university versus somewhere else. Coming to Australia, I feel like myself, I did study in Australia as well, previously from Singapore. I finished my A levels, I came over, and I found that it's not only about studying, you need to have a very good social life as well. And that's where the clubs and societies come in. So clubs could range from social clubs to professional clubs and even academic clubs. We have over 240 different types of clubs that you could join. We understand that when you first arrive in Sydney, you're not alone. Everyone is new for those who are joining the University of Sydney in their first year. That's where you get to meet, many students out there, new students, current students, and make new friends. So for example, in Singapore, we have our Singapore Student Society, where a lot of students who are interested in Singapore, you may not need to be a Singaporean, but you would like to, get in touch with the students from Singapore. You love the food, you love the culture, you can then join the Singapore Student Society. Likewise, there's other societies out there, like, for you to network, for you to professionally develop yourself, or even sports clubs as well. So please make sure that you join the USU for membership, as well as to be able to get access to make new friends out there from day one when you arrive here in Sydney. Now, in terms of career prospects and employability, why Sydney University has always been, ranked first in Australia for career impact, for example, or why our graduate skills are actually top out there, and why New South Wales, within New South Wales, that's where the city of Sydney is located in, employers are really satisfied with our graduates. Our career center has actually a big team where they're very dedicated to help each and every one of you, whether you're international or domestic students. We can guide you in terms of career planning, coaching, interview questions, how to dress up for an interview, for example. And there's lots of professional engagement programs offered as well. So just remember, they're just, a stone's throw away literally from the student center. Talk to them, let them know, make an appointment, let them know roughly what you plan to do when you graduate, or hope to do when you graduate. What kind of companies are you thinking about applying to, for example, and they will be able to guide you from there. Okay. Now, in terms of students who would like to challenge themselves further, so coming to Australia, studying with us in first year, in your second year or third year, if you would like to study abroad, this is something I feel we would like to encourage every single student to do that. And we have over 50% of our cohort doing this exchange. So we have more than 250 partners globally. So in fact, in Singapore, we also work very closely with the National University of Singapore, National Technology University as well. These are all our partners. So if you have a dream of wanting to study in America, in the UK, in Europe, or anywhere in Asia, have a look at our mobility database, and you can see a lot of programs offered with our partner institutions. So this is really exciting because your future employer will be able to see how flexible you are, how adaptable you are in terms of work, as well as study, as well as, doing the exchange program. So you're pretty much, creating a very good resume of yourself when you come and study with us. Now, moving on to scholarships or funding. For international students, we offer a couple of options for you. We have what we call, partial scholarships, like the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarships. So this is for both masters and I'm sorry, it's actually for undergraduate students here, up to 60,000. We also offer for master's students as well. And in terms of faculty scholarships, that's also offered by the faculty. But just remember, for every one of you, if you're first, applying to the university, you need to receive an unconditional offer first. And then, you can then proceed to apply for scholarships out there. Most of the time, you can't stack scholarships, but you can stack awards and scholarships together. So just remember to read the terms and conditions of each scholarship that you're applying for. You can apply for multiple scholarships, that's perfectly fine, but I guess you have to choose the best one at the end of the day, okay? So we have this link here where you can go to visit on our website where you can actually check out undergraduate scholarships. So if you're thinking of doing a bachelor's degree, postgraduate coursework, which is for your master's degree, and finally research, which is like your PhD or master's by research program. So there are different scholarships offered at every single stage. And remember that you can actually apply at different stages of your study duration. So if you're a new student coming in for the first time, you will be considered a new student. But when you're already studying with us, you're a current student, and you can also apply more for faculty scholarships. So it's ongoing, all right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship is offered to high achieving international students out there. So just remember, it's merit-based. It's automatic. You do not need to apply for this scholarship separately, but you do need to apply for the course first. So once you receive an unconditional offer, which means you satisfy every single condition from academic to English, etc., you will be given an unconditional offer. If you do receive that unconditional offer before these deadlines or rounds, you will be in the ranking for the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship. So for example, students who are thinking about studying with us in semester 2 this year, which is in August, the 3rd of August, if you have already applied and you already have an unconditional offer, please check the date on your offer letter. If, for example, round 2 has recently passed, which is 23rd of March, so the last round is round 3, and that's 4th of May. So for those of you who have not yet applied, please do so, and hopefully you'll get an offer received before 4th of May, the full offer or unconditional offer. You'll be then in the rounds for ranking for the scholarship. So it's according to academic merit. The higher the score, the better the chance of getting up to $60,000. Okay, so there's more in terms of terms and conditions on our website where you actually Google VCIS USIP. You'll be able to be taken to that page to understand more about, how to apply, when to get an outcome, for example. So just take note of the deadlines when you need to receive an offer by, and the scholarships office will be in contact with you. All right, so moving on to the next slide. So we know about scholarships. Now we talk about, how to find out if I'm eligible to study at the University of Sydney. There are many different ways. So there's the direct, entry. There's also pathway options for students out there. And some programs, I understand, do require you to present, for example, portfolios or interviews. But again, if you're not sure, always check in with the IDP team or myself, and we will be able to guide you in terms of what you need to do to apply and gain entry. Okay. In terms of undergraduate admission, so for bachelor students, so students who are doing, for example, polytechnic, diplomas in Singapore, or IB diplomas, or Singapore A-levels, or the Cambridge UK A-levels, or just, a high school diploma, an American high school diploma, for example. All these qualifications allow you to enter directly to the University of Sydney for a bachelor's program. And some students, if you are planning to take SATs or already have a valid SAT score, you could use that score as a top-up on top of all these programs. So just remember, we do accept Singapore Polytechnic diplomas. It's, there's a lot of diploma programs out there, but please, again, check in with the IDP team or myself if you're not sure, and we'll be able to pre-assess for you to see if you're able to apply directly to study with us. In terms of predicted scores, we do allow and we do accept and recognize predicted scores depending on the intake that you're applying for. So just remember, we have around 6 months expiry for predicted scores, and I think most of the universities do have similar background on, in terms of predicted score expiry as well. So if you're planning to study with us in February next year, 2027, then your predicted scores would be submitted from July this year onwards. Okay, so do not use too early a predicted score because it would have expired by the time that you're coming to study with us. So again, check in with me, check in with the team, we'll be able to guide you from there. So just a note, it's roughly about 2 points for IB as well as Cambridge A-levels, 2 points higher than the direct entry requirement. For Singapore A-levels, it'll be 20 to 40 points higher. So again, if you're not sure how to calculate that, check in with me or with the team and we'll be able to explain how it works. All right, these are hot courses or popular courses for students from Singapore applying to study with us. So if you're doing, say, A-levels, IB diploma, Cambridge A-levels is listed here, and this is all from the website. And we've just actually merged that into a nice table here. And you can see that, for example, if you're thinking of doing, arts, you just need the 26 for IB or 280 points for A-levels. Alternatively, students want to do business, it's around 360 points for A-levels or 38 points for IB. Some students were planning to do economics, it's listed here, a 31 for IB or 320 for A-levels, etc. So you can see that there are many different options. There's also medicine options. So if you would like to do our direct entry pathway from undergraduate to postgraduate, it is a full marks of 45 for IB. But not forgetting, we do have our pathways called medical science, like biomedicine and health. They are, options for you to consider if you would like to enter postgraduate dentistry or medicine. These could be potential pathways for you to consider as a start. And not forgetting, if you do plan or have taken your SAT, you could use it as a top-up after completing your high school, which is your grade 12, your polytechnic diplomas, your IBs, your A-levels, etc. Okay, and in terms of academic year, key dates, this year, 2026, we offer 2 semesters. So semester 1 started after Chinese New Year, which is on the 23rd of February, and semester 2 commences 3rd of August. Okay, so these are areas marked in red. Is your study time, so March, April, May, August, September, October. In gray is your exam period, which is June and November. And in pink will be your holiday time. So just remember, Australia is in the southern hemisphere. So winter is actually in July, June, July, and summers from December onwards compared to Singapore. So it's a bit of a flip, but you can see that the summer holidays are much longer. So some students do find more work internships during that period, or they actually travel around Australia, or they actually return home. So it's up to you how you would like to manage your holiday experience, but you can see here that this is a nice guide for students to plan ahead on when they intend to study with us. Okay. And in terms of the University of Sydney, we do, how should I say, we do offer, students on, most of the time it's on a rolling basis, except for some programs we do have offer rounds. But in general, what we would like to highlight is that we do have a very strict acceptance timeline, regardless of the intake. So if you're applying for, say, the August intake this year, once we issue you a firm offer or an unconditional offer, you will have 10 days to accept. So once these 10 days passes, your offer will lapse. Your offer may not be guaranteeing your place anymore. So just remember, within the 10 days, you're fine. If you do make your payment to accept, etc., you'll be guaranteed a spot with us. But after that, you'll probably have to check in with us or with the IDP team to see if your offer is valid or their place is available. If you're waiting on sponsorships, scholarships, etc., do let us know so that we can take note of that and roughly give you a guide on the wait list altogether as well. So even for students applying for 2027 intake, the 10 days deadline is still there, but we understand that it's pretty much far out there in terms of time frame. But because we do have limited places for many of our programs, for international students to come and study with us, literally first come, first serve. That's what we would like to highlight to everyone. If you apply early, just ensure that you are prepared to accept within the 10-day period to secure your place with us. All right, and my final slide here will be my contact point. So I'm based in Sydney. That's my WhatsApp and email details. You can scan and have a chat with me after this. If you have any questions, do drop me an email in the chat box, and I'll be able to guide you from there. Okay. All right, so that pretty much sums up my session today in terms of what I would like to share with you. I'll be happy to open the floor to questions, or if you would like to unmute yourself or drop me an email later, feel free to do that one together. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so I can see here there's a question. Thank you for that. So the question is actually from one of the students from the audience, and they're asking, hi, if a student gets an on-campus accommodation in the first year, okay, so this is about accommodation, do they normally have to reapply for subsequent years later? Is it, easy to just stay on, for example? So to that first question, yes, LJ, you will need to apply depending on which period you're staying. So if you've already got or secured on-campus accommodation the first year, that's great. Then you stay on for your first year. Now in the second year, third year, etc., if you really love staying on campus and you find it's very convenient, yes, you would need to reapply again. The chances is that you probably have preference because you're already living with them, they have your background, your details, etc. Remember that on-campus accommodation, there are many types out there. There's the self-catering and the full boarding type. You can always communicate, your interest to stay on with the relevant accommodation provider so that when applications do open for the next year, you will get first choice, okay, in terms of submitting the application. If you would like to move out or just, move across the street, for example, to an off-campus accommodation, then you also can let them know, in advance that you plan to actually move out so they can actually you will use that space, your room space for another student who's planning to come and stay with them. Okay. All right, and we've got another question here saying, oh, for the recent merit-based scholarship selection. So does a student with an IB score in 38 to 40 range still have a realistic chance of receiving an award? To be very frank and honest with you, in terms of ranking for IB, of course, we would say anything above 40 would be better, okay? Because just remember, realistically, if you are getting 42, there's always someone getting 43, 44, 45 for IB, for example. So I would say it really depends on the cohort, how many people in IB are ranked, and then they will be offered scholarships. If they do not accept that scholarship, it goes down until it hits your score, for example. So I would say there's an equal good chance. It just really depends on the cohort applying and how high they're actually receiving their IB scores. And if those who are getting a 45 doesn't mean that they will be accepting to study with us, for example. So there's always a chance out there, okay? So that I must say is in terms of merit-based scholarship. But the good thing is that for the vice chancellors, we do not need to put in a separate application. We just have to actually wait for the outcome But just remember, the unconditional offer must be before the deadline, the offer deadline itself. If you do not make it for round one, you will be moved on to round two and round three subsequently automatically as long as your offer letter is valid. Okay. All right. So let me just have a look. Oh, no worries. And thank you very much for asking those questions as well. So just remember, every student has the opportunities to study with us, with and without scholarships, just depending on your background, your academic, grades, etc. We do not need any statement of purpose or recommendation letters, just purely your proof of identity, which is usually your passport, as well as your academic grades. If you're planning to use predicted scores, just let us know, because the team at IDP does have a special form that you can use and pass it to your teachers for ease, and they will be able to complete that form and we can recognize those predicted scores. If you're studying polytechnic diplomas, you can start applying once you have your fifth semester results. So if your CGPA for the fifth semester is already available, you can start applying for the future or upcoming intake. And if your grades are really high, we do have early acceptance for poly diplomas. If your grades meet our requirements, you will also be issued a conditional offer altogether. So just remember to check in with me or with the IDP team to see when you're planning to study with us, for example, or study abroad, and with the current grades that you have, will it be eligible, or what is the score I do need to achieve when I officially graduate? Right? Okay, so we'll just wait to see if there's any more questions coming through. If not, my email is here. Feel free to reach out to me directly or to the IDP team, and we'll be able to actually guide you from there. If you do have your grades, do share with us so that we can understand, you a bit better and see what options will be available for you. For example, you might say that I want to study medicine, but I also, have a passion for music, for example. And it's doable. It's definitely doable to do those two different majors together as part of your degree study with us. All right. Okay, so I think we'll just leave a couple of minutes for students to actually finish. And if there's any more questions, please put it in the chat. If not, I'll be happy to take your questions offline after this too. All right. Thank you so much.